Alex here again with Sports the NEMO way. Coming your way with our second episode. Glad to have you back. This episode, Ray will be trying to convince the rest of us why James Worthy should be included in the 50 Greatest Players episodes. But again, before I turn it over to Ray, I will give you some facts about James Worthy. The 6'9", 225-pound small forward, three-time NBA champion with no MVPs. He's a seven-time All-Star, two-time All-NBA with 12 years in the league. He was the number one overall pick to the Lakers. He also played his whole career with the Lakers, with career averages of 17, 5, and 3, shooting 52% from the field. So, Ray, why is he a top 50 player of all time?
All right, let me run through my spiel here and we'll find out. Was James Worthy spectacular? No. Was he the most effective? Yes. Sometimes greatness isn't flashy or high-flying. Sometimes greatness is getting the job done. He scored, he rebounded, he passed. He ran the floor. He could drive on you and score. He could beat you many different ways. He also showed he could turn it up a notch when he won the title in '88 and earned the Finals MVP. He was also a three-time NBA champ, seven-time NBA All-Star, and he is in the top 100, or at least the top 110 in points and rebounds. So, I mean, that's James Worthy.
That's it? That's all you got?
Yeah.
Well, Kawhi is obviously better than James Worthy.
Kawhi's not in the top 250, Wade. We went over this last time.
I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
James Worthy's got 3 titles. Ooh.
How many Defensive Player of the Year awards and Finals MVPs do you have?
He's got 1 Finals MVP.
Kawhi has 2. Defensive Player of the Years? 0-2.
You like those twos.
Worthy ever play average 27 points a game? Oh, no.
No.
Okay, well,
I'm just messing around. We can move on.
We have 2 resident Laker fans here, Doug and Drew, one of which is old enough to remember watching James Worthy play. So let's ask Doug about James Worthy.
Well, this was really hard for me because I love James Worthy. Like Ray said, he got the job done when he played for the Lakers at Showtime. James was great in college, playing for North Carolina, and he came into the Lakers at the right time. He had Magic, he had Kareem. He was Magic's perfect running mate, running the floor with him, and he benefited greatly from that. Not saying James wasn't a good player, because he was. He was a great player. He just didn't quite make my top 10 small forwards. Again, I looked at the same guys that I compared to Kawhi with Wade. Dominique, Dantley were 2 of my guys down at the end. They scored quite a bit more. They had equal assists. They rebounded as well or better. And part of that might have been because of the team James played on. That may have hurt him to some extent. But also, playing with Magic helped everybody that he played with. I think James is a great player. He just didn't make my top 10 small forwards, therefore he's not on my top 50.
That's fair enough. I kind of think that Worthy is very, what's the word? He's in that weird territory where he was drafted by a dynasty, which benefited him and also hurt him. I think kind of like Uncle Doug kind of hit on it. He benefited from winning with the Lakers, but he also probably missed out on having better stats. Like if he would have played for the Hawks or the Jazz, like Dantley or Dominique. So it's really kind of hard to figure it out, to be completely honest. But I mean, he was a great player, and I thought about him in my top 10. I think he was probably right outside my top 10 small forwards. He's obviously a winner. He did perform great in the postseason. I really have nothing bad to say. I just think he's just right outside the top 10. He's very good player. But yeah, I think playing for the Lakers kind of messed his career up a little bit. Does that make sense? Like, it benefited him, but it kind of messed it up at the same time because he played with two of with the top 5 to 10 greatest players ever. So like, when you play with Magic and Kareem, you're gonna win. Like but he was good. Like, you can't deny the fact that he was good. So I don't know. It's hard to figure it out.
I just have I don't know, just a soft spot for these, hardworking, underrated guys that everybody kind of overlooks. Like, I mean, he was tough down low.
Mm-hmm.
He had a good shot. I mean,
He was very athletic. He was very fast. Now, Uncle Doug's, he ran the floor extremely well with Magic. He was very athletic. I'll give him that.
That was mainly his offense.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Later in his career, he did some more low post scoring, but he couldn't shoot a lick. I mean,
Well,
his whole career.
Welcome to the '80s, bro. Outside of Larry Bird, no one shot well.
Well, Drew, do you want to go?
Yeah, well, I looked up more in depth on James Worthy's final MVP performance. I know I can't pronounce his last name right, but you know what? Who cares? Polarizing. And I compared him and James Worthy because they didn't give out Finals MVP when Paul won his title. James Worthy played 7 games. Paul played 5. James averaged 22 points a game. Paul averaged 27.
Wow.
Keep going, Drew.
Keep going. Okay, James averaged 7 rebounds. Paul averaged 8. Okay, James averaged 4, and Paul averaged 2. And James played 7 games, and Paul only played 5.
If we're gonna bring Paul Rising into it, I think we need to bring into the era in which he played in. That's a big factor. I think the '80s and the '50s and the '60s, there's a big difference. I think.
Personally, in my opinion, I think the '80s is the greatest era of basketball.
I agree. I would go '80s and '90s.
Yeah, and I think Paul Rising or Arzen's day could possibly be the worst era of basketball ever. But today, I also don't like a lot of things going on today.
Also agreed.
But it's my turn, Ray.
all right. Go right ahead.
21, 6, and 3. That's the best stat line in James Worthy's career. 21, 6, and 3 is his best year. Not his career averages, his best ever year. Top 50 is elite company. If his career numbers were 21, 6, and 3, I still might not do this. But I'm going to break it down some more. I think I might have said this last week, but I view James Worthy and Robert Parrish very similarly.
Mm.
They were the third fiddles on dynasties in the 80s. And like you guys said, benefited because now we have these championships next to their names and all-star games next to their names, because I think we can all agree that when you start winning championships, they put you in all-star games regardless of whether you deserve them or not, a la Draymond Green.
Manu Ginobili.
Also fair. But I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that James Worthy's hot garbage or something. James Worthy was barely left off my top 10 list. I just think that there's some reasons he was. But we just talked about Big Game James and his Game 7 of 36, 16, and 10, where he cemented the name Big Game James in the '88 finals. But we can all agree, I believe, that '88 finals performance is remembered or viewed by all basketball fans. We all know that happened. Drew wasn't even alive for the next decade, and he knows it happened. But not really anybody remembers the 1984 finals. Maybe Uncle Doug does, being a Lakers fan, where he threw the finals away by throwing the ball to the wrong team. Gerald Henderson, he played for the Celtics, I believe, not the Lakers. And he threw the ball to him in the '84 finals, and the Celtics won the finals.
I mean, you're right, but that's not completely fair. I'll
hold
stay
on.
with Ray on this one.
I'm gonna make my case. Hold on.
Okay,
Let me
all right,
finish
go
what
ahead,
I'm
go
saying.
ahead.
My case is, why do we remember one and not the other? Because it was more surprising for him to have 36, 16, and 10 than it was for him to act like a role player and throw the ball away. Because he's not Magic Johnson. He's not Larry Bird. He's not Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He's not any of these guys. Now, I realize those are the elite of the elite, and James Worthy's not ranked top 10 all time like some of those guys. I get that. But we remember Tragic Johnson, don't we? We remember Bird missing the game winner in '87. We remember Bird steals the ball from who? Isaiah Thomas. We remember all these superstars failing on the biggest stages. Did anybody before I said it even remember James Worthy failing on that big stage? Because he's not looked at in the same way that true superstars are. We remember him doing really, really well because that was out of character.
But it won championships.
He did win championships.
He did.
But again, he played with 2 top 5
But-
players of all time.
No, I agree. That was my point. But in Ray's defense, I also think you literally your entire speech just compared him to Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Isaiah Thomas. No one says he's that good. We're talking about the lower level of the 50 list. Ain't no one said he's Larry Bird. Ain't nobody says Magic Johnson.
You're supposed to be on my team, Wade.
We are on the same team. We are on the same team. But I'm just saying. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But you gotta put it in perspective a little bit. I think.
Well, I agree.
We're
with
talking
your
about kinda what-
sentiment that he's not
What Uncle
Bird
Doug
and
said.
Magic
We're
guys.
comparing him to Adrian Dantley and
I'm not comparing him to
Dominique
Adrian Dantley.
Wilkins and people like that.
Okay, it's funny you bring up Dominique Wilkins because
Just
Dominique Wilkins
Just an
is on-
example.
is
Just
on
an
my
example.
is actually one of my other examples. The year is 1982. It's the NBA draft.
Okay.
The Lakers have the number 1 overall pick,
Mhm.
and they take who? James Worthy. Who went number 3 that same year? Anybody?
Dominique.
Dominique Wilkins. Stay with me here.
We're here.
What if you flipped them?
Dominique.
Is the same thing. As
No.
Worthy is.
Dominique. Okay, why was Worthy successful with the Lakers? Because he ran the floor and
Mhm.
dunked on guys. Who did that better than Dominique Wilkins? Nobody.
I mean, Dominique dunked on people, yes.
I mean, that's true, but Dominique was also the all-star of his own team.
And
he
had the
got
ball in
hi-
his hands
I'm
all
not-
the time.
I'm not getting to that point yet.
And he
What
got
I'm saying-
highlighted
Well,
more.
let's ask Uncle Doug, who watched them play.
Well, I loved them both, and I think I understand what you're saying, but I think if you flip-flop them, I think you might also flip-flop their numbers. I think if you flip-flop the two, I think James Worthy's scoring and rebounding would go way up because I think he could have done that.
He's a number 1.
Because he did
How
at
about-
North Carolina. And I think if you put Dominique with the Lakers, I think he'd have run with them great. You're right, because he would have run great with them. But I think his scoring probably would have gone down some just because you've got Magic, you've got Kareem, you've got Byron Scott, you've got Michael Cooper. You've got all those guys that are putting the points in. I think Dominique and James are very similar guys. I have Dominique on my list and not James because of the final numbers. But I think it probably does have a lot to do with where he played.
I agree with everything Uncle Doug just said, but here's the one big difference, I think. When Kareem got old, Dominique would have taken over and been a 25, 28, 30-point per game scorer and taken that load away, and Worthy could never do that in his wildest dreams. He's never going to average 30 in a game because he had the opportunity once Kareem was gone, and he still couldn't do it.
I mean, Magic stepped up when Kareem left. Like,
Magic stepped
Magic
up,
ran
but
the
we're-
team.
We're also talking about a guy that's averaging 20. Not like he's averaging out. I'm not dissing Magic by any means, but I'm saying they didn't win.
well, I think where our disagreement is here and I mean, it's Ray's argument, so he can correct me if I'm wrong.
It sounds like Wade's argument.
Well, it's kind of I feel like the comparisons are going just kind of wild left and right here.
I'm not even done yet.
Well, I feel like it's kind of a what if game. Like Worthy would have done this if this happened or if that happened. He was a very good player on a great team. We don't really know what he would do if he left the Lakers, to be honest.
No, my point was what would Dominique be better for the Lakers? I think Worthy's stats would go up if he went to the Hawks.
Obviously, he'd have the ball in his hands all the time.
Yes, just because somebody's got to score on a bad team.
Dominique's a little bit bigger, a little more athletic, but I also think James Worthy brought a couple things to the table that Dominique was not a very, what's the word I'm looking for? He was athletic and powerful. James Worthy was a little more finesse and athletic and ramping on the floor. That makes sense? Like
I got you.
little different styles, different types of athleticism, I think.
Okay, so you guys don't like that comparison.
No, I'm not.
So let me move on to the next one because I got another.
Well,
one.
hold on. Now you got to also look that by the time Kareem got older, James Worthy has already accepted his role as third fiddle. Now, why wouldn't you say that Dominique wouldn't have done the same thing?
Well, I mean, if he decided,
I mean, they get old. James Worthy was getting older too.
Well, James Worthy came 10 years after Jabbar came in the league.
Jabbar also
That's what I'm
12
saying.
years after the
Jabbar also played like 20-some years.
Right. So he was only drafted in '82, so by the time '88 rolled around, he'd only been in the league 6 years. He shouldn't have been too old.
In the 80s, though, that's 3/4 your career.
Yeah.
And back then,
Well,
he
you're
was
already-
playing
because
3
you're
or 4
already
years in
having-
college.
Yeah, and you're having.
Why
street
am I
fights
by
in the out of
myself?
bounds.
This is supposed to be Ray versus all of us. Now it's everybody versus Alex.
I just think your comparison's
Maybe we
little.
just don't like that comparison because one
Okay.
thing you did say is you said James Worthy couldn't shoot, but you think Dominique was better. If you look at their lifetime field goal percentage, James shot 52%, Dominique shot 46, and they're both dunked a lot.
They both were terrible
So
three-point shooters.
Dominique wasn't
Yes.
a great outside shooter. James was not going to drain a lot of threes for you, but I still think that.
No,
I think we need to go on to your other comparison because I don't
Okay.
think the Dominique one's going to win it for you. For us.
For me, I'm all by myself. you four all obviously have James Worthy on your list. I mean, obviously.
He's not.
He's
We
not on
just-
the list, but he just
you
barely
didn't see him
made it.
support my guy.
Okay,
Didn't
so,
make it.
so let me ask you this. I don't have a draft comparison for you, but I'm just gonna switch roles again here. Let's put Tom Chambers on the Lakers,
Okay.
who has better career numbers than James Worthy, and also freaky athletic. So just run the floor next to Magic and dunk on guys.
Okay.
And he could score on the half court, which is again something James wasn't always adept.
He wouldn't touch the ball, though, because at half court, the ball goes to Kareem. And if you play with the Lakers, the ball it's going to be a Magic and Kareem game. It's going to go back to the same thing every time, Alex.
Kareem
Tom
gets
Chambers
old
would be
and the-
third
and
fiddle doing the
dynasty
same
ends.
thing. What?
Kareem gets old and the dynasty ends. That's
How's
what
that?
that's my whole point with. That was my point with Dominique, and now it's my point with Tom Chambers. At a certain point, Jabbar is done. Jabbar's even when he's still there, he's done. They needed somebody to score in the half court because it couldn't be Jabbar anymore.
Okay, agreed.
So my first case was Dominique could do that better than James Worthy. Now I'm telling you Tom Chambers could do that better than James Worthy. And for my case in point, although small sample size, 1987 All-Star Game. Probably the greatest collection of talent in the history of the world. Every great player ever was there, pretty much. You had Magic and Kareem and Bird and MJ and Olajuwon. All these guys were there. Who won MVP of that All-Star game? Tom Chambers. Weird, isn't it? Why did he win MVP?
Why the hell are we talking about Tom Chambers?
It's an all-star game. Who cares? No one wants to get hurt. They want the real championship. Or a
they
real
didn't-
MVP.
No, Drew. This is where you show your age.
Oh,
Now nobody cares about the All-Star game because nobody plays. It mattered then. Uncle Doug, back me up.
They did play a lot harder back then than they do now.
Yeah.
It was much more of a game.
Well, they played way harder back then in regular games. And maybe it's just the same thing, just it's less intense. Because now basketball's not intense as it was back in the 80s. I know that. But maybe it doesn't looks like they played harder because they were playing harder in regular games than what they are now. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
I understand what Alex is saying here, and this comparison, for what you're trying to say about taking over when Kareem leaves, Chambers might have been better. Dominic and James were the kind of the same guy. James and Tom Chambers were not the same guy. They were different. But I don't think that's really the reason the Laker dynasty died. I think the Laker dynasty died because of HIV. I mean, when Magic ended, the dynasty died.
Or did
Case closed.
Or did Michael kill it?
Michael had a hand in it too.
I mean, even yeah.
But nobody ever answered my question. Why did Tom Chambers win MVP?
No one has a clue.
Because he scored 37 points by repeatedly running the pick and roll with Magic Johnson and yakking all over whoever was in the lane.
Okay. If your argument's an all-star game, let's move on.
My point is, if it was that easy to score in the half court with Magic Johnson, why couldn't James Worthy do it?
That wasn't James's game. He wasn't a pick and roll guy. He wasn't Karl Malone. He wasn't Tom Chambers. He was a run the floor guy.
Exactly. That's my entire point.
Okay, well, I agree with that 100%.
His offense revolves around, I'm going to run really fast down the court, catch a pass from a Hall of Famer, and dunk or lay it up.
But that word phenomenally, they were called the Showtime Lakers because they ran up and down
Yes,
and won and became a
Right,
dynasty.
But Byron Scott and Michael Cooper did it as well.
Yeah.
And we're not talking about them.
Yeah, because they averaged like 8 and 12 points a game.
I do believe
There's a reason for
I
that.
do believe in the year they won the year they made the finals against Michael. What year was that?
91, 92, I think.
Yeah.
Could have been right at the end. Yeah.
I do believe Byron Scott was their leading scorer.
May have been.
I think he averaged like 20 a game.
Which, I mean, that's what they
Byron
brought
Scott.
Byron in for.
Well, yeah, because Michael and Scotty were guarding Magic. They just took turns back and
No,
forth.
I mean for the season.
Oh, for the season?
Yeah,
Well-
Scotty guarded Magic. That's that famous thing where he guards Magic and
all the
shuts
way
it
up and
down.
down the court.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at Tom Chambers' career stats for 1 second.
Yes. Let's do
18.1 points.
more than Worthy.
Half a point.
Whatever. 6.1 rebounds a game.
More than Worthy.
That's only one rebound.
2.1 assists.
It was a little slightly lower than Worthy.
One less.
Field goal percentage 46.8.
It is.
So a little less effective.
Because
than James Worthy.
because he had to create his own offense.
So if he creates his own offense, and how is he only 1 point higher?
He
than
also
James
has
Worthy?
more shot opportunities than James Worthy.
I would say James Worthy scored one less point, and he's playing third fiddle on a team.
We did turn on Alex. This is kind of
The
funny.
entire argument is against Alex. So obviously you guys screwed up and didn't put James Worthy on your list.
Yeah, it's on my list. We just don't like your comparison.
I've never heard of Tom
All I'm
Chambers.
saying is that there's a lot of guys that could have filled James Worthy's role. That's the
All right.
entire point.
We could have
And
led
you
with
can-
that.
And you can't
We could have led with
argue
that.
against it because it's true. Tons of guys could be third fiddle on great teams.
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
Kevin Love did it.
Remember that when we get to Kevin McHale.
Kevin Love did not do
Who was never third fiddle. He was the second best
Oh.
player.
I would disagree.
Well,
But
we'll hit that, boys, when it comes time.
He's a hater.
Did you say Kevin Love?
Yes. Kevin Love.
Kevin Love was non-existent for like 5.5 years.
Kevin Love was hurt every time they
So
played.
you're making my point for me. He was the third best player on a championship team, and you're making fun of him.
I don't know.
No, I'm making
Tristan
fun of Kevin Love because Kevin Love was not there.
Kevin Love was on the Cavs championship team,
Yeah, but he wasn't there. He sucked.
and he was still the third best player on a championship team. So thank you for making my point for
No,
me.
I'm saying that James Worthy is way better than Kevin Love.
It's debatable, but maybe.
This is great.
It is.
I love So let's just go ahead and say fuck Kevin Love. He's on the top 50.
He's not. I'm not making a case for Kevin Love.
Oh, things got lively for a minute. I liked it. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Over here trying to stick a good one on me with Kevin Love.
I believe my point came across very well.
All right, this is falling apart.
Well, just hold it.
I got you, bro. All right. Anybody else have any cases for James Worthy? We got really off subject for a second. We brought up Kevin McHale. We got Kevin Love. We're just all over the map right now. Tom Chambers. We're all over the map with James Worthy.
Dominique.
I feel like Dominique. Well, that was like kind of on course. I feel like we're really over the map right now. Anyone else have any closing statements on James Worthy?
I really think that James Worthy is going to fall into spots that a lot of these guys that aren't on all our lists. He's a good player that just wasn't good enough for most of us. We kind of picked on Alex a little bit because maybe we didn't like some of the comparisons. But I think we all in the end agree with Alex that James wasn't in our top 10 small forwards. He wasn't in our top 50. He's a good player that just didn't make my list.
I agree with Uncle Doug. We did mess with Alex probably more than we should have. But it was just...
You reversed the fucking podcast.
I know. I really turned it on its head. But I was really going for it. The Kawhi argument really pissed me off.
Drew and Wade were like personally offended that I didn't like
Yeah.
a guy they've never seen play.
Don't
I'm
fuck with...
sorry, I've never heard of Tom Chambers.
Exactly. He's better than he was.
All right,
he has
all right,
better
all
career
right,
numbers
all
than
right.
the guy we're talking about.
That's-
and you
that's-
never heard of him.
Let's calm down.
Was he the best player on his team? Was
Never
Tom
mind,
Chambers
we're gonna
the
let
best
it go.
player on his team?
You don't even know.
No, I don't. I've never heard of him until tonight.
He has. This,
Tom Chambers was pretty good.
Tom Chambers has maybe the most iconic dunk ever,
I mean-
outside of Vince Carter's.
I was going to say, let's not push it too far.
I was Vince has got some pretty iconic ones.
You
I
get
mean,
about
am I
4,
wrong
but
that
it's fine.
The dunk over Mark Jackson, is it not like everywhere we see?
Oh, it was very nice. It was very nice.
I'm not trying to listen to a Tom Chambers podcast.
I'm pretty sure.
We're trying to listen to a dunk contest.
Scottie Pippen teabagging Patrick Ewing is pretty iconic.
You're right.
Yeah, Vince Carter skipped the teabag and went all the way over the top on that fucking douchebag from Europe and just dunked it.
Is it Weiss or Vice or?
I don't know. And then he also slammed on Alonzo Mourning and everybody else. It's fine. Anyway, we got way off track again. This James Worthy argument's getting intense. But anyway.
If you guys ganged up on me.
But you're saying
Your problem is you fucked with me on Kawhi Leonard, and I didn't like it, so I turned the table on you on James Worthy, you son of a bitch. So anyway,
You have James Worthy on your list.
doesn't matter. I have Kawhi. Anyway, my point.
I have Bob Pettit.
All right. Anyway, on James Worthy, I pretty much disagree with Uncle Doug. He's a very good player. He just kind of missed my list. He's kind of a what if situation where he got drafted on a dynasty that helped him and probably hurt him at the same time for his stats. So it's really hit or miss of just your opinion. But he's just outside my top 10. But I have no problem with him being on Ray's top 10. It doesn't offend me at all. It's fine with me. I kind of understand his argument, to be honest. But
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll leave it to Drew or Alberta.
I'll go next. Yeah, I agree with Wade and Uncle Doug. Well, Uncle Doug's my dad, by the way, for everybody. Okay, but anyway, back to James Worthy. Well, talking about Tom Chambers being better or whatever.
Leave Tom Chambers alone, Drew. Leave it alone.
My
Let it
point
go,
was-
let it
my-
go.
my point
Run
was
away.
That any athletic person could fill his shoes in that team. And I was just naming athletic guys.
This is going to be the episode to listen to right here. All right, Drew, hammer it home, or should Alex go? All right, Alberta, you're up.
All right, so I did. The tables got turned on me, and I hope it didn't come across like I dislike James Worthy. We're talking about a Hall of Famer here. I'm not trying to say that he's hot garbage and doesn't deserve recognition for what he did. I'm just saying that my point is that I thought most athletically gifted guys that were legit NBA guys could do what James Worthy did for the Showtime Lakers. He had some great games in the playoffs, no doubt about it. Big Game James earned his nickname. But even though, like when Wade said earlier, it's a what-if game, well, I was playing a what-if game. in order to vault him this high, you also have to play a what-if game. What if James Worthy did more because he wasn't on a great team? That's what you have to do to vault him this high. Top 50 is the elite of the elite, and I just don't think that James Worthy showed us enough, whether it was his fault or not, to be a top 50 player of all time. And that's how I feel about it. Drew, are you ready?
I think I'm ready now. All right. Well, James Worthy, he's not in top 50. Yes, I agree with that. But he was very, very close. But he's just, I mean, yes, I know he won 3 titles, and he had a really great Game 7 against the Detroit Pistons that year. But it just wasn't enough. Like Alex, he's right. Most people could probably fill his shoes, run the floor. It's pretty easy to catch a pass from Magic, run down the court, and just dunk on.
Now you agree with me.
Well, I do agree with you, but some of the people you brought up.
Dominique Wilkins, I do believe, is on your list.
Yes, Dominique.
Yeah, that was a terrible comparison. Another Hall of Fame small forward.
Yes, but I say if you switch their roles, it's just same stats, just different places. If you put Dominique in L.A. with them, he's going to assume the third fiddle role. I mean, yeah, 6 years later when Kareem's gone, maybe he'll go up a couple more points than James did, but not much. It's not going to be much better. He's not going to have a much better career. So
You mean a guy winning scoring titles?
yeah, he did. But he's not going to be asked to do that in L.A. He's going to ask to catch dunks from Magic Johnson and to rebound with Kareem down low. He's not going to ask to be a scoring champion over and over. He's just going to be asked to run the floor Magic.
I guess we'll just disagree.
Well,
That's
I
fine.
feel like now we need to hear probably from Ray
Yeah,
about
Ray.
James Worthy.
So look, I still feel pretty offended that you would throw Kevin Love into the argument. That's pretty sad.
I bet his career numbers are better than James Worthy's.
I'll look it up.
What, the 2 years he was on the Timberwolves?
Well, those numbers are astronomical, so we shouldn't bring those up.
I mean, that's true.
He was a walking 2020 for a couple years in Minnesota.
And then LeBron James, the career killer, came in.
Man, Ray, do you have some? No, I'm just kidding.
But
How
anyway,
do you feel about LeBron James?
Well, we'll find out later.
much later.
But I mean, seriously though, we have people on the list like, we got like James Harden, who scored half his points on a traveling violation. Or we have like
Yeah, wait.
Stephen Curry, who
Cool with it.
is a one-trick pony because he has no other tricks except for throwing a ball up. And
Reggie Miller.
Reggie Miller had another. We'll get to that too, buddy.
Yeah, we will, big
What about
boy.
Steph's
That's
tricks
coming.
tonight? He scored 62.
Yeah, then tomorrow he'll get shut down by somebody.
Probably a short white guy from Australia.
Yeah, and then he'll go to practice and hit 100 in a row from the same spot. Woo!
Reggie Miller won't win titles.
You're not wrong.
Let's keep on James Worthy.
But anyway, I mean, we can play the what-if game and throw whoever we want in the puzzle piece there, but that's not what happened. We got James Worthy there, and he was a fit for the Lakers, and he did his job. He was tough, and he put up his points as the third fiddle. I mean, he might have been the third fiddle, but he was still a great player for the Lakers. And, we could put, like Charles Oakley or Sean Kemp in a position, but they wouldn't have fit out the Lakers team like James Worthy would.
Well,
And then we can put Tom Chambers. But
why is everybody hating on Tom Chambers?
just because he played a pick and roll in the All-Star game, big deal, Maybe he wouldn't have fit in the locker room, or maybe when he got to the Lakers, he wouldn't have fit that puzzle piece.
I suppose that's possible.
So, I mean, we can play the what-if game about all these other players, but when it comes down to it, we don't know. What we know is James Worthy was a great player for the Lakers, and that's why he's on my 50 greatest players list.
Well, I can't argue that. He did play for the Lakers.
Well, I'm glad you acknowledge that.
Well, you got anything else for us, Ray, on James Worthy?
No, I think I'm good with my argument.
All right. Well, I appreciate it, Ray. And I guess we'll move on to our next segment, which would be some trivia, guys. We got our second round of trivia. Wade seems to be unprepared because he's in a scramble mode. So I will ask, does anybody else want to go?
Sure, I'll go.
All right, let's see. Let's hear it.
Okay. Can you name the top 3 in blocks all time?
Well, I'll guess. I believe Olajuwon's 1. I think Mutombo is 2. And, ouch, number 3. I don't know. It's going to be a pure guess on this one. Morning.
I'll go next. I'll go Olajuwon, Mutombo, then Kareem.
Olajuwon, Mutombo, Robinson.
Let's go Olajuwon, Kareem. We'll go Mutombo 3.
Okay, it was Olajuwon, Mutombo, and Kareem.
So Drew's on 1?
Mike's not even
Ray had
sir.
the 3, just the wrong order.
All right. Drew takes the lead there in the first place.
You want me to go ahead and say my question?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Who has the highest free throw percentage for their whole career?
Wow. I'm going to guess John Stockton.
I'll guess Rick Barry.
Wade, right?
You said free throw?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody?
I'll throw Reggie in there.
Reggie. Wade?
I'm gonna go Reggie.
Steve Nash.
Ouch.
Ooh, I didn't think that.
All right. All right. Well, I'm gonna keep a theme here. I'm gonna go with another arrest. What player from one of our lists was arrested in the early '90s for trying to have a threesome with 2 prostitutes?
Okay, I'm going to answer this one.
Okay.
Sean Kemp.
I see a theme here with your answers as
Yeah.
well.
James Worthy.
I'm going James Worthy.
I am gonna go Sean Kemp again.
The answer is James Worthy.
Wow.
I thought Uncle Doug might know that one.
Is that why they call him Big Game James?
I like that.
I saw the look on Alex and Uncle Doug's face, like that's the one. That's the one.
All right, who's next?
I think I'm the only one left, aren't
No, I gotta go.
Ray size.
I? Okay. You want to go? You want me to?
Yeah, I'll go. All right, best 3-point percentage of all time.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr.
Steve Kerr.
Mine says Ray Allen.
I don't think that's right. I
mean,
think it's Steve Kerr.
I was pretty positive in my answer. I'm not gonna guarantee I'm right, but I thought it was Steve Kerr. And I thought actually the Currys were.
I'm pretty sure Seth Curry's next.
Yeah.
I think Seth was actually number 1 not that long ago. He has a limited amount of shots, but
Basketball Reference. We got it pulled up right there. What's it? Basketball Reference.
Yeah, let's get off this
we're getting fooled.
Oh, sorry guys. I know this is great radio here. We're looking this up.
We've been puzzled. Goddamn Currys.
Uncle Doug has it pulled up on Basketball Reference. It's Steve Kerr.
All right, so we all get points.
Yeah, I think so.
I believe so.
All right, well,
Ray,
Yeah.
get your answers right.
And I need to research better. Sorry, guys.
yeah.
That's all right.
Wherever that website is, say fuck that.
It said wikipedia.org.
Well, and whoever said Seth Curry was second is correct. He
Do
is
I get a
second.
bonus point for naming number 2?
No.
All right. Is it just me, right?
Indeed.
I think it's 3-pointers made.
That's field goals. Yeah.
That's 3-pointers made. You were on the 3-pointers made list. What pick in the draft was Chris Paul?
Man, I remember that draft too. I'm gonna say 5th.
I'm gonna go with lucky number 6.
I'll go with 3.
Right?
I'll go 8.
It is 4.
We skipped all around that.
We danced all around that one.
Round 1, pick 4. By the, I believe, Charlotte Hornets.
Yep. Charlotte Hornets.
All right, gentlemen. After 2 rounds, the scores are as follows: Ray has 2, Doug has 3, Alex has 4, and Wade and Drew each have 5.
Go, guys.
That's what I'm talking about, baby.
So that's the end of the trivia and the end of our episode, guys. So again, thanks for tuning in, and please tune in next week for our episode on Pau Gasol. Just like this week, I'll be defending Pau Gasol all by myself.
We'll help you.
Maybe a little bit. Why don't you bring Tom Chambers?
Why don't you just admit you were wrong about Kawhi and I'll defend you?
No, I won't.
He wasn't wrong about Kawhi Wade. Just
All
drop
right.
it.
No, I'm not dropping it. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Fuck
Yeah.
Pow.
All right, we'll catch you next week on Sports the NEMO way, and we'll talk some Paul Gasol.